for us. We are dying. America, I'm begging, save our life. Look at this woman. Let's use them. Please, why allow us to survive? Please, send your men to come and save us. Because they have already finished the money to finish us. Also, we have nobody. Only God in heaven can stand for us. Please, I'm begging you, United Nations, your silence is getting worse. Yesterday, one of my colleagues, Reverend, was slaughtered with his wife and his children. And I'm right here, look at women. Immediately they were communicating. After the Fulani husband have finished burning down 2 villages, then the soldiers came in, trying to cause confusion. And who are these army men that are using machine motorcycle? Let them get the shoots. God will stand for us. We have nobody. Everybody, we are now ready to do the last prayer. Since Islamic agenda is taking over the nations, now live at the police station in Barkiladi. Look at those at the IDPs. We have nobody to stand, and we are the survivor. Now more IDPs are being added. Where did they want it to go? They have already signed our land, has been relocated to them. They have signed our villages, have been relocated to Fulani husband, and nobody is talking. Even my colleagues, reverends, are keeping quiet. Women are dying every day. Men are dying. What do you want us to do? Please, please, I'm begging you, congressmen of London, please, stand for the helpless. They have nobody. Burutai, I know you are a friend of mine in Facebook.
Joining us now is Bernard Toutounji, National Director of Aid to the Church in Need in Australia and New Zealand. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Can we just start off by listening to what Bill Maher had to say?
I mean, the fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar.
Right, no one's talking about it.
It's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. Not, and again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Thank you. No one will talk about it, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Bernard, he makes, such an excellent point that this is largely being ignored by the media, and there are plenty of young people who are happy to go out and demonstrate against Israel and taking part in pro-Palestine demonstrations, yet are silent about what's happening in Nigeria. Why do you think this is?
Look, thanks, Gabriella. Problem one, I think it's being generally ignored because most people don't know about it. But problem two, why is it being ignored by the mainstream news? Look, the mainstream news media cares about what it wants to care about. And we know that two groups get little airtime, Africans and Christians. It's really the precise reason that one of Aid to the Church in Need's core works is around advocacy. For 25 years, we've published what we call the Religious Freedom in the World Report, global overview, 196 countries, 900 pages. It looks at where people can practice their faith, all faiths, and where they face discrimination, oppression, or outright persecution. And at one point, there were 4 of these major global reports on religious freedom. Today, there are just 2. There's the US State Department and our report. And even that tells you something. Ours is unique because it's the only non-governmental report that looks at Christian principles and the on-the-ground realities. But to be honest, it's the value of networks like Sky News, presenters like yourself, bringing this to the fore.
There are reports, one by Nigeria-based human rights NGO International Society for Civil Liberties and the Rule of Law Inter-Society, found that there's an average of more than 30 Christians in Nigeria being killed every single day. More than 7,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria this year. Yet Nigeria has pushed back against reports such as those. Its Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying earlier that this year that there's plenty of misinformation and misleading reports regarding the supposed targeted killings of Christians. Can I get your response to that?
Yeah, the government's speaking nonsense and hoping the world doesn't pay attention. Nigeria today is an epicenter of Christian martyrdom. Since the year 2000, more than 60,000 Christians have been murdered by Islamist groups like Boko Haram, heavily armed Fulani militia. Our organisation's 2023 report I mentioned places Nigeria firmly in the red category, meaning it's persecution. It's not just discrimination. You know, what makes Nigeria unique is that Christians are not even a tiny minority. They make up almost half the population, 100 million people, yet they live as if they're second-class citizens, especially in the north. The Nigerian government's failed to take any meaningful action to prevent attacks, and the violence is relentless. In Benue State alone, one diocese recorded 93 villages attacked, 330 farmers killed in just a year. This past June, a couple months ago, another attack in Benue. A gunman raided a town, killed 100 people, forced 4,000 to leave. And it's not just killings, Gabriella. We're speaking of abductions, burned villages, destruction of churches, millions forced into camps where they lack even the basics. And every single day, Nigerian Christians wake up to the fresh news of kidnappings or attacks. It's not sporadic, it's systematic, it's targeted, it's gone on for decades with little accountability.
Absolutely horrific. Can you talk to us about how the aid to the Church in Need supports the suffering, oppressed and persecuted Christians?
Yeah, sure. Look, for 80 years, the work of ACN has been to keep the faith alive, as we say, in those places where it's under greatest assault through persecution, oppression, poverty. We're not a humanitarian or a development agency. We're what's called a pastoral agency. Our work is to sustain the faith directly. So we build, or in the case of Africa, rebuild churches often, sustain poor nuns, priests, provide them with means of transport. In all, we undertake about 6,000 projects a year, completely funded by, in our case, Catholics around the world, no funding from church or state. But the work we do for the suffering churches, we call it, inspires and brings back life to us. I think our founder used to say they're being tested in faith and we're being tested in love. And the resilience of the Nigerian church to just keep on that is incredible. The daily threats, the priests and sisters travelling to remote villages at risk of their lives. We have had to do things that no spiritual charity ever thought it would do. We've built high fences around seminaries. We provide enclosed vehicles. We fund trauma healing. So this persecution, from what we see it deepens faith. And the church in Nigeria is young and vibrant. Attendance is high. And the blood of the martyrs remains the seed of Christians, the same in Nigeria as it has been right throughout the history.
Bernard, before I let you go, I just want to ask you about what's happening in the US. We're seeing more attacks, certainly targeting churches in the United States. Those attacks have increased significantly in recent years, according to a report. And of course, that horrific shooting at a Minnesota Catholic school is just one of the latest examples. What do you put this rise in attacks on churches down to in the US?
For me, it's an easy question. I really put it down to a loss of faith. It's not just the USA. There have been more than 100 arson attacks on churches in France in the last 5 years. 50 years ago, the entire Western world threw off what they deemed to be the shackles of the collective Christian faith. And so now, over 2 generations later, we've moved from a society of at least a cultural faith to a hatred towards faith, Christian faith anyway. But the thing is, the Christian faith, it isn't just Sunday school and grace before meals. It's a whole world overview. Now, instead of worshipping the Creator, we worship the climate. We build massive places of worship called shopping centres. We eat, we drink, we marry. And in that same movement of secularization, we've moved towards an intolerance, because I think deep down, people know that some of their moral, ethical and life choices are not so good. We shoot the messenger, and there's no shortage of examples. 2,000 years ago, King Herod put the head of John the Baptist on a plate because he told him he shouldn't commit adultery. 3 weeks ago, someone shot Charlie Kirk in the head because the person didn't want to be told that a person's sex is innate. None of us like being confronted about our sins and failings. Christians don't like it either. I don't. But Christianity provides a framework and a system to better oneself. Radical secularization preaches intolerance. So, the news will continue to see violence against Christians and Christian churches.
Bernard Toutounji, National Director of Aid in the Church in Need, Australia and New Zealand. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Gabriella. See you later.
This is getting worse every time in Nigeria. In the heart of Africa's most populous nation, a silent tragedy is unfolding. Thousands of Christians and Nigerians are being adopted and displaced in what global observers call a campaign of systematic persecution. Guys, white men are not talking about this. That's to tell you that this is not a child's play. Recent findings from the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law reveals shocking statistics. On average, more than 30 Christians are murdered every single day in Nigeria. That brings the death toll this year alone to over 7,000 lives lost. But according to Bernard, National Director of the Aid to Church in Need Australia and New Zealand, this crisis is not just a random violence. He calls it what it truly is: persecution. It's not just killing. We are speaking of adoption, burned villages, destruction of churches, and millions forced into camps where they lack even the basic amenities. Guys, it's actually systematic, it's targeted, it's gone on for decades, like it's going on for decades with little accountability. This is what Bernard said, and this testimony is echoed by countless human rights organizations and faith-based charity. Entire communities have been uprooted, they've been uprooted, churches razed to the ground, and the survivors left with nothing but grief and trauma. The pattern is clear. Christians in Nigeria are not simply facing discrimination, they are enduring deliberate and calculated persecution. Millions of Nigerians now live in displaced camps, stripped of dignity, lacking food, clean water, or security. Children are growing up without schools. Women face the constant threat of adoption, and entire families are shattered, like scattered by violence. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, the Nigerian government continues to reject these reports as exaggerated or misleading. Officials argue that the violence affects all Nigerians equally, regardless of region, but independent observers say the data tells a different story. Christians, particularly in rural communities, are the ones targeted. Most of these attacks are concentrated in northern and central Nigeria, where Islamic militant groups and armed herdsmen operate with near impunity. Decades of weak governments, corruption, and lack of accountability have fueled the cycle of violence. And then, the question now is not whether persecution exists, it's how long the world will remain silent. How many more Christians must die before the international community respond with the urgency this crisis demands? And Bernard reminds us that this is not just a Nigerian issue, it's a global, it's a global human rights crisis. The world must shine a light on these atrocities, demand accountability, and support those who are suffering from their faith. If you believe these voices deserve to be heard, guys, share this video, raise awareness, and stand with the, stand against this persecution of Christians. Now, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Like and share this video for more updates, guys. Hit that subscribe button because we still come back and update you guys on what's happening all over the world. So, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.